Okay, since we changed the data model around, we're going to need to do some refactoring. Let's see what classes we're going to touch.
This is a pretty big change in the way that we're thinking about our data, so I'm going to try to divide up these changes into steps. The first step is to delete old constants. I'm going to be here in the constants class. You're going to remove the whole active list node, and as such, there's some constants that you're going to no longer need. If you remove these constants, you can easily see the places in your code that we're getting data from the old active list location. There's one here, which is just the word active lists that was being appended to URLs. And then down here, in the URL constants, we also have a constant that we can remove. Okay, and now when you run your code, you're going to get a lot of errors for the different places that we're using these constants. You can go through those errors, or if you're really squeamish about breaking your app, you can right-click or use the keyboard shortcut and use the find usages command. Okay, let's go into the next step. The next step is fixing up the read operations, and this should be fairly quick. You should think about the screens again and which parts will need to read from the new data location. For example, all of this is list data. It probably needs to read from the new data location. And this list name over here, also list data, probably needs to read from the new list location. Updating writing will be a bit more difficult. Remember, whenever you change some detail about the shopping list, other than the items, it's going to need to change in multiple places now. It'll need to change in the owner's shopping lists and in the shopping list of all the users that the owner has shared the list with. So I have a couple of thoughts on the best way to approach this. I seem to remember a discussion about using update children. Not sure when we had it. But basically, update children is preferable to set value because it allows you to update a bunch of different places in your database all at once. And therefore, you don't need to worry about consistency issues. Now that we've got a bunch of shopping lists that we want to keep in sync, it'll be even more important to use update children. This will keep you from getting into an inconsistent, half-baked state where some users have updated lists and others don't. You might also remember that I talked about making a helper method, and this method is specifically for keeping copies of the same object synced. And this helper method would be specifically for updating a property of a shopping list in multiple places. The method could take information about the shopping list and the property to update, and then make that update to the appropriate locations throughout your app, using key value pairs in a hash map. When you're generating this hash map for using update children, remember that every list is going to have an owner, and eventually they'll all have a shared with list. We haven't implemented sharing yet, so right now, just focus on the code to update the owner of the list. It seems a little silly because you're using update children to only update one property, but it'll make the switch to using shared with a lot easier. Whenever and wherever you change a property for a shopping list, you should be using this method that you just made. Okay, so here are all the thoughts I have about the refactor. And I've also included the finalized database schema in the notes again. Why don't you take a look at the spec and then update the app? Thanks a bunch.